Hello everyone, I'm Megan Cullip. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of this Tangled Life. Here today with me I have Jennifer Mitchell, the administrator for the Access Jail-Based Treatment Program, as well as Kathy Puckett, the clinical director of the program, and Janelle Ortega, the traditional.
I'll be traditional.
Yeah, well, transitional services. Do you guys use traditional methods?
Yes, we do.
See? Okay, we'll hit that in a minute.
Okay, sounds good.
I knew the answer before I even asked it. Okay. So, Jennifer, why don't we start with you? Give us an overview about what this program is. If I'm coming to you and I'm a person that knows nothing about what you guys do, what would you say to me?
Okay, thanks, Megan. And thanks for having us here today. So our jail-based treatment programs, we operate two different programs. One is a 28-day program that is specific to DWI offenders. And if they are convicted of a DWI offense, they come to our program, spend 28 days in jail, and while they're there, we give them treatment. Our other program is a 60-day jail-based program specifically for women who are involved in the criminal justice system as a result of their substance use. Both of our programs incorporate a kind of a triad of services wherein we incorporate incarceration and treatment, and then followed by case-managed aftercare. So our program started with the DWI program quite a number of years ago, about 1994. There was a big push in the community to address the DWI issue. And so a group of people organized themselves and came together as a DWI task force to try to find some solutions and address, the problem of DWI in our community. And what they, after searching and researching and reviewing lots of different options, where they landed was this triad of services with incarceration, treatment, and aftercare. And then thus the DWI program was born. And in 1995, we opened our doors to our first group and have been operating in that manner ever since then. We've expanded and modified, of course, the program over the years to adapt to the needs of the community and the needs of the judiciary, needs of the clients, of course. But essentially, we have maintained that triad of services, the incarceration, treatment, and aftercare services. And then in the early 2000s, as you probably are aware, there was and still does exist, a pretty serious methamphetamine problem in our state, in our community, and so on. So at a statewide level, the state was looking at solutions to deal with the methamphetamine problem, and looking at the successes that we have seen in our DWI program. They wanted to give our modality, our model, a try to see if we could address the methamphetamine issue in our community. And they chose San Juan County specifically, not only because of the jail-based treatment services that we already were operating with DWI, but also because we had the highest number of women who had children in state custody as a result of methamphetamine use. And so we decided to work with women who were involved in the state system with their children, in state custody, and we began to work we opened our doors to women in 2006. We started our first group. At the time, it was called the Methamphetamine Pilot Project. And we started working as a jail-based treatment service for that population, but we were not fully, the participants were court-ordered, but they weren't fully jail-based. They could choose to leave. And what we discovered very quickly was that if they could choose to leave, they would. And so after about 6 months, two different cohorts, we decided to adjust our model, and we went to a fully kind of a criminal program where women were involved. These same women, basically, were involved in the system with criminal charges. And so they're court-ordered to our program because of criminal charges that exist. Doesn't necessarily have to be a drug charge, per se. It doesn't have to be possession or trafficking or anything like that. It just there has to be some identification that their substance abuse has led to their criminal behavior.
Got it. So then I have a couple of follow-up questions. One is, you mentioned a few times the community. So I want to hear about what the community's relationship is to the Access program. And then also, I'd like to hear the difference between you guys and drug court, because people might have heard about drug court, and these programs are different, but they both involve drugs, courts, and jails. So I want to hear the difference between those two.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Yeah, sure. So in terms of the community, we have we like to think that we're very involved and integrated with the community. We have a number of volunteers from the community. We have a group of women who come in and do Bible studies. Women and men actually do Bible studies on a couple different nights with our inmates. Of course, that's voluntary, but we also have some people who come in and do other kinds of, we have a woman who comes in and does mindfulness. So just different involvement and investment from our community members. And of course, the goal would be for our clients then eventually to then carry that back out to the community and give back to their local community where they're living and going back out into. In terms of kind of the distinction between drug court and our programs, we're actually very different, but yet the same. We work very closely together. The drug courts often will use our program as kind of the bridge for somebody who has just recently been sentenced. They will sentence them, and the court will have them start their first 28 days or 60 days, depending on which program they're being sentenced into, as the beginning of their probation. And so they'll start their probation with our program, and then they'll bridge out into the community and be on the drug court programs. We also are a referral source for people who are already on probation, and if they violate by having a drug use episode or drinking episode, then or even new charges, then they can be referred to our program.
Got it.
Does that help?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So many words. I need like a jargon dictionary sometimes, I feel.
I'm sorry.
No.
I know, I've been doing this work for over 25 years. So.
Right. No, that's very helpful
Yeah.
though. And because you guys are under the umbrella of San Juan County Alternative Sentencing.
That's right.
So
Yes.
where do you guys fit into that puzzle?
Okay, so the county operates, as you mentioned, the Alternative Sentencing Division. Alternative Sentencing Division operates essentially 3 different programs, the 2 that we've already been talking about, the DWI program and the Access program. The 3rd program is like probation services for our magistrate courts. It's called the Adult Misdemeanor Compliance Program. And so we fit under the umbrella of the county as a whole. I'm considered to be a department head as the administrator of the division and of our jail-based treatment services.
Gotcha. Okay. All very helpful.
Good.
Thanks.
Yes.
Demystified it for me. So let's turn to the clinical side of things. So Kathy, as clinical director, what does that even mean? What's a day in the life?
Okay.
What kind of treatment modalities? Because we've talked on the show about treatment modalities, so I think viewers are aware of that. So why don't you give us an overview of that stuff?
Okay, so as a clinical director, I'm licensed in mental health, professional counseling, as well as addiction counseling. And with that comes overseeing 6 counselors in the day-to-day, providing evidence-based treatment in the groups of the DWI and the Access cohorts all day long, 5 days a week. We use a community reinforcement approach, which means, just as we've been talking about, evidence has shown that the best route is to get people prepared to reintegrate into their community. So always with that as the primary focus, thinking, how is this going to work for them when they get into the community? We certainly take in one size does not fit all as far as geographically goes. I mean, we're very cognizant of the area we live in, New Mexico, the cultural boundaries that have to do with that. In integrating our treatment, and my advice and coaching to my staff is always, folks are going to get back in. Let's look at this. How does this pertain? A lot of my work, my foundational work, is in family systems thinking of origin, family of origin, and then how do we integrate that into what the real life scenario is for each of you.
So, real quick, family systems. A lot of people might not be familiar with that, so go for it. I'm a second-born, but I am 5 years apart from the firstborn. How does that impact things?
Two only children, really.
Right.
It's if you have 5, that distance between, you have one are being raised separate, so it's 2. It's not like you have that 13-month apart Irish twin kind of thing. So, for me, and what I teach my clinicians is it's important to look at, not that it's all that's an excuse for addiction or it's anything else. But if we don't take a snapshot of the whole picture, it's very difficult to plan out how we're going to do this and what it really means to have an evidence-based treatment if you're just taking it from the book and thinking it works for everybody.
Right.
So family systems is to look at children, ACEs, to look at what it was like.
Describe to us what ACEs is.
Oh dear, I was afraid you were going to ask me
Adverse
that.
childhood experiences,
Thank you.
right?
Adverse childhood experiences, very good. We have to look at who you were from the beginning and then kind of paint that picture for folks, not to give it as an excuse or to give anything else, but to say, we could write a new story. So narrative therapy comes in there a bit. I can throw lots of those out of how do we write a new story and saying, well, this is what everybody did, so this is who I am.
Sure.
That has not worked in addictions treatment. A punitive approach has not worked in addictions treatment. A disease model alone does not work. It's a combo cup. So with the curriculum that's already been in place, been around for a long time, I see my role as just integrating that, training my staff, helping them with years of what I know, and making sure the human part is part of this. To me, that is key, because just incarcerating people has never worked.
Right.
Treating them as non-human beings does not work.
Sure.
I don't feel. So this is the world according to Puckett, but it's backed up in some ways,
we're talking to Puckett. So.
Yeah, we're talking to me. But it's really looking at this human side. There's a human story, and we're given enough time with our DWI 28-day program. We have enough time to get through that first crust, get into the humanness and put them back together and package them up to go out with, which Janelle will talk about, our follow-up care. We don't just, they're gone.
See you later.
And the access ladies, we have 60 days to do this. They have a gift of 60 days of like a retreat.
Yeah.
That's how I look at it.
Right.
You have a break from everything. And we can go and we can put this in and we can embrace you and we can give you what is evidence, but we have to change it. Every cohort is different. Every person is different. And luckily, through a long-term program, the 25 years, right, that we've had, there's been a lot of evidence-based in what we do and the freedom to be able to do it. So for me...
Your own evidence, you mean, because you have 25 years to look back on, right?
Yes. As Jennifer said, they tried one thing, it didn't work, so we went back and we did another.
Yeah.
And, that's... to me, is how we do it. That's the way I like to look at person-centered treatment in a group modality. Basically.
We also have had research done on our program by UNM CASA.
Oh, great.
They performed a study, a relatively long-term study of over 5 years, where they followed our clients. And the findings, and that I mentioned earlier that was part of what motivated the state to try the Access program, using the DWI model that we've been employing was because of the successes that they had seen and had been borne out in the research, which indicated that our program was twice as successful as as either just treatment alone or just jail alone. So we have some good research to back up what we're doing.
Sure.
Also.
Yeah, 5-year study.
Right.
So we know that when it comes to individuals, who have been incarcerated or individuals who suffer from addictions, that a support network is very, very important. So do you train folks in their support circle, the individuals who are in the program?
Well, yes, I'm not sure I understand the question exactly, but that might be one for
Is that a
the
Janelle
transition.
thing?
That might be a Janelle one. But the answer is yes, of course.
Okay, Janelle, let's turn to you to get a little multi-layered. No, but thank you, Kathy. So Janelle, you run the transitional services.
Correct.
Which I hear makes your program unique, is the follow-up care.
Absolutely.
So why don't you tell us a bit more about that?
Absolutely. So the uniqueness is everything encompassed in everything that everybody said as far as those layers go. Our team actually gets to be involved in the treatment setting. Actually, for Access, our case managers are the first people to interact with the clients that are referred to us, and we start our relationship with them coming in the door. So the uniqueness around all of that is, yes, we do a lot of, I don't know if training is the right word, but we work and facilitate groups alongside the clinical team and providing, in essence, what the support is going to be. And that would include all of us as a treatment group, community, and the Access or the transition team, and then probation and all the other stakeholders that are going to be involved in their care, the aftercare providers, other community resources that they're going to be, needing. Meaning for anybody in the community that provides a support service for them, we get them started while they're in-house with us.
Gotcha. That's great. So when you mention sort of the networking out to other resources, what does that look like? Like, it sounds like a headache to me just thinking about it.
Well, that's my passion in all of this.
Great.
Is that the headache is the networking for me is like it's the backbone to all of our care. Is that we stay very well connected with all of the other service providers in the community, and they have a high regard for our program because they know once they've come to us that they've received this intense level of treatment, that every part of that holistic approach, that handoff, everything that we want to support the client and hopefully leading to their success and recovery is putting in all those pieces. So we have to know our community providers very well. And so the networking is really on a personal level. It's just getting to know the who's who and what services are out there. Ideally, they want to put their services out there and look for the population that they need to serve as well. But what we're wanting to do is just create a relationship with all of us as a community agency, if you will, and providing those supports is us working on behalf of the client and then accessing them to that care.
Gotcha. So how long do you follow a client?
Up to 1 year
Okay.
is what it states. However, we have several clients that will continue to come to us for support years after their care is over and they've even completed probation and they've been successful in the recovery. We still have folks that come in the door and we'll say, hey, we need this, or how about a referral for family therapy, things like that. We are ongoing following our clients that want our services after the 1 year.
Great. So how many case managers do you have?
So for each program, there's two.
Okay.
2 for each program. And right now, it's really interesting because I have a male and female case manager in DWI and the same for Access. And it's been a beautiful combination just to have that balance. I know it sounds, kind of strange, but I feel that having a strong male figure, a healthy role model for our Access females has been really a great contribution to the work that we do. And the same for DWI. Just their background and experience. I mean, if they know the system well, they're able to really get that client comfortable with them within that time to come for the support that they're there to do for case management.
Sure. And I'm assuming that case managers, kind of everybody is functioning with this whole person first model, it sounds like, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's client focused all the
Right.
time. And like Kathy and Jennifer mentioned, although it is the alternative sentencing part of it, the criminal justice piece, and then being incarcerated, our focus isn't always on the incarceration. That's part of this beauty of what came together for this program. That's really what was brilliant, is that although, yes, that they were being served a consequence, someone's telling them they have to be there, but once they get there, they realize this has actually really been good for me, the structure and support and the intensity, the first hands-on that all of our staff has with the clients. I think on top of the evidence-based practices that we practice there has really molds together really well. I think the uniqueness of our program all the way around, and the triad and the brilliant people who created that, I think it needs to be recognized on a bigger extreme so that we can have more programs available throughout our state or wherever else, but our state definitely needs it.
Sure. And I think, Jennifer, you mentioned this, but just to circle back to it about who qualifies for this program, because I know we have a lot of drug charges that show up at our door, but is everybody with a drug charge in this program? So maybe we want to just circle back to that.
Yeah, so that's a good question. So essentially, if they're involved in the criminal justice system and the court has ordered them to come into our program, we will take them. The process by which somebody gets referred or gets identified as being appropriate for our program really occurs sort of on the front end, and it's a, kind of, as Janelle mentioned, the networking and the collaboration that we have with our community partners. We work really closely with, as you mentioned, like the drug court teams, and other probation entities. Of course, our own San Juan County misdemeanor compliance officers do a lot of referring to our program, and we're able, because we'll see somebody's name on a booking sheet, and we've had some work done with them. We've had interactions in the past, and we know that this client might be good for another referral back into the program, or they were in DWI, maybe now they need access, something like that. So that whole referral piece leading up to the court actually sentencing them into the program is kind of a nuance, that we have to sort of massage and try to work with our community partners. I think most of our, especially our probation entities, drug court people, and other probation officers really value, and not just probation, but also our public defenders, and the prosecutors. I think they really value the fact that we have good, sort of long-term treatment programs here in our community, where people don't have to leave the community and then get kind of dumped back into our community.
Right.
After they're done. We can reintegrate them right back into the same community where they have been living, and hopefully a better person, hopefully better able to cope if they have to go back into the same household or same system that they came from. We hopefully have given them tools to learn how to manage some of those challenges on a day-to-day basis. And as we mentioned a little bit earlier, you alluded to the family and the support, the work that we do with families and concerned significant others. We provide kind of a branch of our CRA programming that we work with is with our families. The families are the significant others who are involved with the clients that we work with, and we, on a weekly basis, we bring those family members together and we talk to them about what their loved one is working on in treatment that week and how they might be responding, and how, certainly we don't give away confidential pieces of information, but we talk in general terms about how they're adapting and what their fears are with their loved one coming back out, and their own experiences, and kind of validating those things. So those pieces are all really kind of highlights of our programs.
Sure. And when it comes to reintegration, and I don't know whoever wants to take this, you all can take this. That seems really tricky, because I know that one of the sort of hallmark pieces of advice, at least in classic AA programs and stuff, is this avoidance of person, place, and thing.
Right.
So tricky stuff. Yeah. Clinical director, go for it.
That comes back to the person-centered focus, that the reality is most people cannot change person, places, things. They can't. You know, I mean,
Sure.
they're not going to up and move. They're
Sure.
not going to, and it's the family unit is here. So, as Jennifer was saying, we do the education for the family. We do what's called pro-social on Saturdays. We do about different staff come in every Saturday morning. We take the folks and we try to have them have fun in a sober way. You know, that you can play games, you can do this,
Sure.
you can do these things. And really, we have to work from that person, people, places, things. Ackerman really, I mean, sure, you know, on paper, that sounds great.
Right.
But in the reality is, and we offer a Saturday relapse prevention group, we're doing a lot of supports. Community supports is the key. And just saying to them, okay, here's the reality. This is who you live with. This is, they're using, we role play. What are you going to do? What's this? Where's your support? Do you have a spiritual thing? Do you have this? I mean, we hammer on that all the time, because it's not just, well, when you can grow a plant, you'll be ready. No, it isn't like that. I mean, it's,
Ooh, that's good news, because I haven't kept one plant alive in my
Well, in
life.
addition to that, what we do, if we get, you know, there's the craft piece and working with families, but we get them in and we develop the same relationship. You know, obviously they're not our clients. We're not offering them the service other than the groups for support and education, but also extending that if they're interested or they're in need of also getting some help or are needing services themselves, we can do that referral, and that in turn really essentially helps the client as well.
Sure, of
And
course.
so we really want to gain that trust, if you will, without having to compromise the information either way. You get them in a room after a week and you get them comfortable and they're engaged, then they start realizing maybe there's more that they can actually gain for themselves by being there for their loved one.
Right.
So.
Yeah, that makes sense. So this program's been going on for 25 years, we said, roughly, right? What kind of changes have occurred over that time, and where are you guys heading? Dream big. If you had everything you ever hoped for in this program, what would it be?
Yeah, good question. So when the program first started, it started out, as I understand it, I was not around at that time, but as I understand it, it started out as kind of a day reporting center, and clients would, they'd be in jail, but they were actually housed. This was back at a time when the Farmington Police Department had its own jail, and they were housed at that facility, and they were actually kind of walked across the street to our facility to participate in programming. And then they were walked back across the street at the end of the day. So they would sleep over there and come over to us during the day and get services. That's kind of how it started. And then as the program grew and funding became available, different things like that, we had the opportunity to expand and open up beds for, you know, right there on site. And so they created, you know, the actual jail piece at that time, where they actually had the beds on site, and it became more like a jail-based treatment facility. And then somewhere like in the, I want to say early 90s, they modified and actually built an additional building on the same campus to be sort of separate space for the detention area. So there's actually now a detention center. It's a very small one, of course, that has kind of dorm-style housing for the inmates and a control center, and then all of the treatment programming takes place in the adjacent buildings that surround that detention building, and it's all encompassed by the the fencing and the necessary security features that would be present at a minimum security jail. I guess if I could, as you said, dream big.
Yeah, I want to hear from all of you too on that. So
I-
Kathy, start thinking.
Yeah, I think
Janelle, I think you're ready.
I'm always ready.
I think what I'd like to see, of course, we expanded from just DWI and then opened up the Access program in 2006. That program, as I mentioned, is specifically for women. I'd like to, if money were no object and I could have my wish, I'd like to be able to build some additional space and have a program for men. I'd like to be able to have additional transition services and housing available. Those are some really big pieces that we find are crucial to recovery. And I'll let I think we all kind of share the same hopes and dreams, so I'll let them talk a little bit too.
She took mine. Yeah, I
sorry.
mean, definitely the a men's 60-day program. In addition, if I could dream big and have it, I wish it was a 90-day program, and but definitely one for men also. Many times in our craft, our family systems, they'll ask, we wish you had something for men too, because often their significant others are struggling, and or sons or daughters, family, whatever. And so for me, treatment in incarceration in conjunction is the answer to this systemic issue.
Sure.
So more treatment all the way around.
Sure. Janelle?
Yeah, I'll triple ditto. Everything that they said on that is really expanding, direly for a men's program. But if we could, in addition, almost have like a 3-step, the 28-day, the 60-day, and a 90-day, and then we would just be able to grow our transition services and the resources. I think one of the biggest things about being a community agency, there's not a lot of people that are aware of our existence or really what we do, but really, creating an awareness of the limited resources we have for those people that really have an opportunity, but if they're limited to one thing, especially housing. Stable housing is huge. It's just maybe having our own place for those ladies to go, or our clients to have security with.
Sure. That's great. So I think that's a great place to end, dreaming big. If money was not a concern, although we know that money is always a concern. And you guys, I guess, are funded. How are you funded? Do you have a foundation? Say a viewer wants to give.
You want to start that? Go fund me for
I don't say somebody's out there and they're like, oh my gosh, I am inspired. How much do you need?
Right. So actually, that's a really complex answer.
Sure.
So our DWI program is funded in part through state funding, through a grant called the LDWI grant, which stands for Local DWI. And each county in the state receives a portion of that fund to operate a DWI program. Since the inception of this program, our program has been the priority use for that funding. And so that's partially how we're funded. A very large portion is through the state funding, and also through the county. The county provides a lot of the in-kind services. We have a building, and we have maintenance staff and HR support, and those kinds of things are provided through those in-kind services from the county. And then for Access, also state funding helps support those programs through a couple of different grants through Behavioral Health Services Division and through the 11th Judicial District. So.
Great.
Yeah.
You're right. That is very complex.
Yes, it is.
All right. So we won't be writing personal checks anytime soon. Got it. Got it. Well, that's a very valid dream big, and so my hopes are that you guys would get that. I think it only helps the community. So I've been here with Jennifer Mitchell, Kathy Puckett, and Janelle Ortega from the Access Jail-Based Treatment Program under San Juan County's Alternative Sentencing. Thank you so much, guys, for joining us.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah. And thanks, listeners and viewers, and we'll see you next time.
Okay.